All right, so I'm Caitlin. I'm your governor. There's Mitsuki, your lieutenant governor, and Brazine, your speaker, and we're really excited to be here. So first things, I guess next slide. I'll just talk about what is Cabinet. So Cabinet really plans out like all of the initiatives and things that work with state JSA. So for state conventions, for your Instagram or like fundraising activities, activism initiatives, and also keeping chapters like connected and alive. That's kind of the point of Cabinet. It's really seeing the backbone of how Texas JSA functions because as a Texas JSAer, you see a lot of stuff going on, but there's even more going back into it. And it's really important for all of these people to help sustain Texas JSA because without Cabinet, we would not be able to do anything at all.
Facts. Yeah, so why should you apply? There's like three main reasons. The first is because it's a really good leadership role in like a statewide thing, and it's pretty important. So then you also get to work with really good people and you meet new people from across the state that you work with. It's also a really good experience. I think in my personal experience, I've met a lot of cool people and I've been able to work on a lot of important projects. So in this webinar, we're basically just going to first go over what each of the departments do if you're interested in any of them. And then we're going to give some final tips for how you can improve your application before you submit it. So first we have the executive department. So it's basically the three chiefs of staff. Each of us, Caitlin, Farzine, and I will have our own chief of staff who together will become the big six. So basically, typically chiefs of staffs are rising seniors who have a lot of experience with multiple departments in Texas JSA, not just one. And I think on the application, it asks you what kind of experience you have with other departments too. Basically, someone who has a lot of experience in JSA as a whole. You work closely with the big three to oversee the state as someone in the executive department, and you need to, in your application, show your dedication to JSA because you'll be helping the big three look over all of the departments in Cabinet. So you also need to have some kind of impact that you had on JSA previously. It's really helpful to have that on your application if you're applying for one of these positions. So we also have activism.
So the three of us have like split up all of the different regions of like JSA. So I'm in charge of activism as one of mine. So there's three like main jobs under the activism department that you can have. You can be director of activism. And this is usually someone who's a rising junior or senior. And you should have a lot of experience with the department because you pretty much be the head of the department. Deputy director of activism, same thing. You should have a lot of experience with that department. And activism agent. So all these applicants should show some more experience with activism, usually than all the other like departments because it's your like specialty, and you kind of organize statewide activism initiatives. And if you go to if you've gone to our conventions, you've seen the stuff that the activism departments like lead in our activism blocks and things like that. Obviously maintaining fighting apathy and other campaigns and chapters, and you're planning the activist blocks for conventions.
Yeah. Then next we have Chapter Internal Affairs, also known as CIA, which is a pretty cool name, I can't lie. So there's a director, a deputy director, and a lot of agents. That's the typical structure of departments. There's two departments that aren't like that. We'll get to them later. Again, the director is typically a rising junior or senior, and the only reason why is because it's usually someone who already has experience with CIA. So they're already aware of how it works, and then they already have like a vision of what they want CIA to, like the direction they want CIA to go in the future. All activists, all agents and applicants should be aware of how a chapter runs, whether you have a chapter in your school or if you've had a leadership role in your chapters. that's pretty helpful for an application for CIA. But if you haven't, that's fine too. Basically, CIA is the link between chapters and cabinet. They create reports on the status of chapters. The director runs the remind that keeps all chapters up to date in terms of what's going on at the state level. And then also it's pretty important because CIA basically maintains retention, chapter retention in the state, which we wouldn't have conventions without chapters. So CIA is pretty important. If you're interested in kind of connecting chapters with the state level, then CIA is probably a good fit.
All right, so here comes convention, which is one of, in my opinion, like the most important parts of cabinet, because all the state conventions you see are completely planned out by the convention department. If there's like no adult supervision at all, and really no other department plans the convention except for us. I mean, I'm not in convention anymore, never mind. So for most convention positions, you will need to attend every convention and pre-convention. Pre-convention is like the night before, and that's only for some positions, but for everyone in convention needs to attend every convention, obviously, because not only is the pre-planning important, the actual execution is all held by and facilitated by convention cabinet members. So the convention coordinator is the one who is really behind like the actual agenda, planning out everything, the supplies list and stuff. Assistant convention coordinator will assist them. Now, assistant convention coordinator is usually a sophomore and convention coordinator is usually a junior. Director of logistics, I think it ranges from sophomore to senior, so it's sort of more fluid, and they're kind of at the convention more of the one on their feet, like going between rooms and making sure things are looking all right. Quizmaster hosts Quiz Bowl, which is like a special Texas JSA tradition. It's like trivia. And Director of Special 19-Time Activities, also known as Santa, which is a really fun name, organizes all the fun social aspects of conventions. So throughout the year, they'll be brainstorming new ideas to put during these conventions and making it as fun as possible to make people more connected. And Director of Political Communications is also incredibly important because they find the speakers to our conventions, and speakers are honestly like usually a highlight to state conventions. So it's a really important role. In terms of age range, from positions 3 to 6, they're all either sophomore to senior or even freshman if like you have such a passion, and we've seen it. So there's not really that big of an age limit there. Now, debate. For all the resolutions that you see debating at state conventions, they are all written by the debate department. That means writing out resolutions, writing out the blurbs about them, and also putting speakers into positions, assigning pro-con speakers. That is what the debate department does, which is, so if you're someone who has like who's really knowledgeable and like foreign policy, domestic policy, into debate, have experience with the debate, it's awesome to be a debate, anything part of the debate department, just because that experience is really needed. Also, the director of debate is very crucial in making sure all the debates run smoothly, along with the debate agents. They are also the ones facilitating, making sure the debates are respectful and don't go off.
Yeah. So now we have expansion. Again, there's a director, a deputy director, and then some agents. It's really helpful in your expansion application to have some like friends from schools that don't have JSA chapters, because the entire point of expansion is literally to expand Texas JSA. So the way it works is expansion works pretty closely with CIA. So expansion will get new chapters, start them up, get them going, and then transfer them to CIA, and then CIA will maintain the chapters. So basically, expansion focuses on helping chapters get TAs or teachers, or helping chapters get members, or getting admin approval. So it's a lot of logistical things for people who are interested in starting JSA chapters. And it's also really important because we're trying to expand to other schools that we haven't reached yet. And we're also trying to expand to other states that Texas JSA encompasses that we don't really have that many chapters in up north. And so, yeah, it's basically just growth. If you're interested in contacting some outreach, then expansion might be a good fit.
Okay, so fundraising is a little different. There's more options, I guess, for you to run for. So there's director of fundraising, deputy director of fundraising, fundraising agent, and then there's director of supplementary programs. So obviously directors are usually rising juniors or seniors. They should have lots of experience with the department, and all applicants should have some sort of experience with fundraising. And these programs should, I mean, these like the stuff you do should be raising funds across all state. They kind of, you use like Classy to help and other like things to help find donations and help chapters. A lot of what you do is behind the scenes. So it's kind of a lot of like fundraising is like not during the convention, although there's some part of it that is during convention, like in the opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies. If you've been to a convention, they have like the singing thing that Sam used to do, and then people would walk around with the bags and like competitions and stuff. But there's also like the merch that you buy and stuff like that that goes into fundraising. And supplementary programs publicizes summer school, so that's another way that you do fundraising is like making known about the summer school. So yeah.
I also want to add on that JSA, like as a whole, like not on the state level, wants to, their ultimate goal in the future is to put summer school being like their supplementary programs being one of their main sources of revenue, and they really want to emphasize that. I know like historically summer school has been more like an extra add-on, and it hasn't been as cared for as state conventions. But if you are a director of supplementary programs, it's encouraged that you have attended a summer program in JSA, so you know how awesome they are. Or if you don't, you know people who do and know how awesome that experience is, because their JSA on the national level, I think just recently decided to like really divest their attention towards the summer, so they don't need to rely on state conventions as their sources of revenue, more on their summer programs.
Yeah, and to add on that, just like a little plug, I just came back from a summer program like yesterday. I went on the Bird Institute in Pepperdine, and it was like a really, really good experience. And they talked about journalism and media and stuff. So if that's something genuinely you're interested in, is a JSA program, like getting more involved with JSA or politics in your future, or even like media or whatever, it is genuinely a really, really good way to learn more about something that you're passionate about.
The last department is publicity. Again, this is kind of a weird department. It's historically known as the biggest department because there's the most people. So we have the deputy director and the director, then we have publicity agent, basically a design agent. You design graphics for social media to post them. Then there's technology agent, who is the person who works on the website that we have on WordPress. So if you have an experience with WordPress or even a little bit of experience with coding, then maybe technology agent is a good fit. There's head of photography and videography. This person is in charge of taking photos at conventions and editing videos for a YouTube channel. Then we have the Lone Star writer. Although anyone can write for the Lone Star, there's usually 2 Lone Star writers who are the people who officially write for the Texas JSA Lone Star blog. Basically, publicity is pretty straightforward, but you do have to work with every department basically to advertise whatever they want advertised. Make sure that people go to conventions and market them well. So yeah, if you're interested in graphic design, have some experience with Canva, then maybe you should apply for publicity. I highly recommend it because I was in it. But so I guess now that we've gone through all the departments, we also have some tips. The first thing, don't just say XYZ. That's what Caitlin said. You just have to give examples. So like, let's say you have experience in a certain field, like let's say graphic design. Don't just say that. You should give examples of like something that you've like substantially done or accomplished. Another thing.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I want to add on, like if you say you're organized, you have leadership and you like you're organized, you have leadership, you just like say that, or like other amazing qualities that you probably do have. Like when we're reading these applications, we don't know you at all in general. So like we would want to see like maybe a sentence or two sentences afterwards where you would like substantiate that, where we know you have that. Because that's really helpful in deciding like whether or not you should be on cabinet.
yeah, then quality over quantity. I think we say this every year, but just you don't have to write a book to explain why, there's probably something extra if you're writing so much stuff about why you should be selected for a certain position. You should be concise with your answers, and it'll really help us on our end too. Another thing, the most important thing really is that not really your experience at all. It's really that you have some kind of passion for JSA. You have a vision, you have goals that you have on how we can improve.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Okay.
I was gonna say people on cabinet are usually people who become really invested in JSA. If you're an underclassman, perhaps one day you might become a big three or like a director position. These are people who genuinely care about JSA, and we want to see that you're not just doing this for the extra resume like an extra position on your resume. We want to see that this is an organization and like something that really aligns with what you care about. And of course, you don't need to like go overboard and say like how much you love JSA, but we want to see that in your application, that you have a vision of like for Texas JSA and you're going to put in that work, because cabinet is a lot of work. And if you don't like it, like if you don't care about JSA, then it feels like such a huge burden throughout the school year.
Don't be afraid to express yourself. I think Caitlin touched on that earlier. Then here's a kind of side tip. You should read the big three letters in the beginning. There might be like something that you want to add to the end of your application. I'm not really sure, but I kind of remember something like that. Then the last thing, this is kind of important. You should reach out to someone to look over your application, whether it's someone who's already in cabinet or someone at your chapter who has a lot of experience. It's really helpful. I remember I had to do this and there were a lot of things to fix in my application before I sent it in. So it's really helpful to have someone else look at your application, kind of like a second opinion.
Anyone but the big three, because they'll be reading them.
Yeah.
But besides for us, yeah, I remember like reaching out to people like a director of debate or a director of activism, like former directors, to read through my application. So it just helps you like polish off the stuff. But we wanted to reserve a lot of time for questions. And does anyone have any questions about cabinet? Because that's really what we feel that a webinar is more important for.
And if you want to ask the questions later, we can always just you can always message us, DM us on Instagram.
Yeah, you can always, if something's not coming up to you right now, just DM us on Instagram on our like we all have like separate, like I have a speaker account, Mitsuki has the LTG account, she has a governor account, so just DM us on there when we're likely to see it. And
yeah, so the app
has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello. So my question was, what do you guys feel like you learned most from your time in cabinet, or from people that were in cabinet if you were never in cabinet?
Okay, I guess I'll go first because I learned so much. So I started out cabinet as a debate agent, and then I became assistant COCO, and then I became convention coordinator. So cabinet is really life-changing in the sense that like it's like you're working. And sorry, I've been eating my dinner, but it's like they treat you like adults, and whether or not something happens is up to you. Like a convention, like I literally last year when I was planning fall state and spring state, literally like even like the big three or other directors do not care. Like they don't check up on you and they don't remind you. And it was up to me to like just plan it. And like we have a program director that's like an adult of JSA, but even them, they don't like help in any part or way. So it's kind of like the ability to be able to create such concrete things where it teaches you like life skills that like really like that's why college admissions officers like JSA so much, is because they know that the students who are in it, and especially like in cabinet or other positions, they have actually done really solid stuff. Like, and I'm sure Mitsuki and Frazine can attest to that, being like leaders in their chapters and also like in state positions. I think that's the thing, like you get to be able to execute really like real stuff. You know what I mean? You know, there's those nonprofits that like just don't do anything. And sorry.
Yeah, like that comes back to like one of our tips of like being interested, like genuinely, if you're not like committed to being like a good deputy director of like fundraising or something, you know, like if you're not committed to the thing you're doing, we wouldn't suggest you do it. Find something you're passionate about, find something that you're like interested in working hard at. And then, because then it would like kind of show on your application, right? Like if you have like a background, I guess, in like technician and like doing stuff with like tech and stuff, like, and showing your passion for that, like we're more likely to choose you if you don't really like care about it.
Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, but I thought one thing that really stood out to me about Texas JSA was just like the actual like substance of it. Like you're actually doing stuff that is like impacting people across the state, which is crazy to me. And also the people, like you meet a lot of friends and a lot of like highly successful people, like years out, looking at like when I was a freshman and looking at the seniors and what they're doing now, it's just like really amazing. I don't know. It does. Mitsuki, do you have anything to say? Oh yeah. Okay. Answer your questions. Okay. So I saw Philip said, could I resubmit any
Yeah,
application?
Philip, if you want to resubmit your application, just the second time you send it, just say you already sent, like in the actual email, just say you already sent it once and this is the application that you want us to consider, then we'll go back and not look at the other one.
Any other questions? I mean, I could just say something I feel like about cabinet is that cabinet is really, really important. To like this year, especially, I feel it's going to be super important to have a really strong cabinet to take us out of that, like not out of the COVID year, but like to make us stronger and like rebuild. Because I feel that it is like it's very easy, like in cabinet, if you aren't motivated to just not do anything. And it ends up being like a lot of other people's work, and just like, because if you don't get it done, someone else is going to do it. So I think this year, a very motivated cabinet, like last year, Texas JSA, I mean, we had an in-person part of conventions, but overall it was just kind of a big struggle in general. This year it's going to be a lot better, but I think a strong one. I'm really excited though to be able to build a great one. And obviously you guys all being here shows your huge interest in being on cabinet.
Yeah, really quickly, I'm going to end the recording. One last thing, again, the apps are due on the 10th if you're applying for a director or a chief of staff position. This doesn't apply to like director of logistics or director of supplementary programs. We're only talking about like department directors, so like director of debate, convention, fundraising, etc. So those are due on July 10th. Then the other ones are due on the 15th at 11:59. So yes, please apply.